Lapse the steering wheel here. Give me the steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
You like my bass? You like it?
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the interstate.
Hey folks, it's Todd. Apologies for the interruption, but for whatever reason, noise reduction, blame Riverside, not quite sure what happened, but it destroyed the music on the intro, so apologies for that. But sparing you all of that confusion, I'm going to jump right into this week's podcast, introducing the lovely Grace, the redoubtable Grace, the thought leader Grace. Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty great, Todd.
Good.
I love being a thought leader.
Sure.
It's my specialty.
Sure. Well, I was juggling thought leader, thought broker. Either one applies.
Ooh, thought broker is pretty good.
It is pretty good. That was the last year's version of that.
Thought broker also seems like less work. Aren't I just now moving other people's thoughts as opposed to coming up with my own thoughts?
That's right. You're just a broker in people's thoughts.
I guess as a thought leader, I'm actually stealing people's thoughts and claiming they're my own. As a thought broker, I'm just pushing out other people's thoughts for my own profit.
And scraping off 10%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll go with thought broker. That's better.
Okay. I like that. Oh, boy. Well, we were all waiting, Grace. We had no idea what the big car livery launch, a first ever, so it was first ever Formula One car launch combined, all 10 teams. It was a big car livery launch at the O2 last week, and very grand event with live music. All the teams are there, the drivers, the new liveries. Jack Whitehall hosted, and the F1 TV crew got their moment in the sun as well. And although, if I'm honest, I think Jack could have hosted the whole thing and managed the entire thing, given the short amount of time that the drivers and team bosses had to speak. But bar that, it was a big event, and I'm sure you watched it.
I did.
Cool. Paul was making fun of me for being a teenage girl because on my phone I have a pop socket.
Yeah.
See, that's old.
Great. Right.
It's a pop socket, right? And he's like, "What are you, a teenage girl?" Yeah, doubling down, Paul. Guess what I got in the mail today? Got the new logo pop socket.
Nice.
So, yes, I watched it. I watched every minute of it. I know you did as well.
I did watch it.
We were on the edge of our seat.
I didn't watch it live because it was at like 2:00 in the afternoon here or something like that. So we watched it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I thought it'd be fun just to share, if you will, what I liked, what you liked.
Sure.
And then maybe share what you didn't like, what I didn't like about it.
All right.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, my favorite. Cool.
Okay, yeah.
I like that.
It's a pro-con list. Everybody does them. Why can't we?
Well,
We pay good money to do these podcasts.
I get paid good money to do this podcast.
Yeah, sure do. It's been a life-changing endeavor for us, Grace. Gee whiz.
All right.
So here's what I liked about the event. Let's start off with some positive, shall we?
All right, that sounds nice.
Okay.
Sure.
I liked the scale of the event. Now, I've been in the audiovisual technology business my entire life, so of course I'm going to love the lighting, the sound, the image mapping, the projection image mapping, all really good. The video introductions of each team I thought were great. I don't know who did those. I don't know how much was left to the teams to do to sort of weave their story. Were they doing that conjunction with like a video production company that the F1 hired to do the event? And did the team storyboard things? I'm kind of curious how the marketing departments of these teams came up with the storyboarding marketing message and the story they wanted to tell. They were all good. I liked all of them. Some better than I resonated with some more than others, I think, but I liked those. I liked the whole brevity of the presentation. The showrunner kept everything tidy, kept everything on time and all that. Now I'll talk about the timing later, but as far as the show and the show coordination and orchestration, I thought was done. It was very tidy. The liveries I thought were great. My favorite was the RBs. I think most people's favorite because it was the most different, right?
Yeah, right. It had all the like little Red Bulls, right? The little Bulls. I thought that was cute. I thought it should be like I don't know. You should get a new Red Bull, like football helmets. Like every time you get a tackle, right? You get like a
sticker,
Buckeye. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like if you're really for Ohio State or something, like you should have to earn all those little Red Bulls on the side of your car.
Yeah. It's kind of like the
every pass or something. You should get a little
pilot. Aces, where they have shoot an enemy down, and they put there you go, on the side of the fuselage.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be cute.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm with you. It's like college and high school. Go back to the sticker system and celebrating those successes. So, like, Max would have 4 stickers on the side of his car. I'm for it.
That's right.
Lewis would have 7 gold stars.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be good.
And one like gold outline.
With a question mark in the center of the star.
Something, right? Like shrug emoji.
Yeah, shrug emoji. Exclamation marks. Yeah, right. So I liked the liveries. I liked the RB a lot. And to be honest with you, I liked the whole levity. I think Jack had some cheeky below the belt digs at the drivers' team. Totally caught him off guard. I don't know if they were expecting to get kind of roughed up in a comedic way.
I don't think so. It was kind of fun because you like they'd pinned him and you could see either they didn't care, they're like, oh boy, he's here. Right?
Yeah. It was like, or they were like, uncomfortable, Yeah,
right.
Still funny. No. Yeah. So, I thought it was pretty funny, take a dig at them, get them to laugh at themselves. I thought that was pretty funny. What did you like about it?
So, I mean, I like this. I liked the same sort of things. I do think that the whole way they set up the stage was really nice. I thought that they did there's the lighting and everything was very epic, but not too overdone. Like it didn't feel like, grossly produced or something. I did. And I liked that they had everybody sitting there and, you could make man crush jokes at Charles Leclerc while standing next to him. Right. That's great. That was super uncomfortable for him. So, no, I thought that was a lot of fun, and and I think that it helped that he set the tone right away. Like he just was like, "Look, people, we're here to see a bunch of liveries that haven't changed all year. Welcome!" Right?
Yeah,
right out of the box. I think that they did a good job of sort of setting expectations of what you could get.
I agree.
I think that it also helped to bridge both. Newer fans or what the kids would want versus old people would want. You know what I mean? I thought that there was it felt nice to everybody. It wasn't too it's like the Super Bowl. Like sometimes you're like, I don't know, I'm too young for this, or I'm too old for this. Like I think it felt a nice balance across age groups that if you were there for Formula One, you could watch this and you didn't have to have too deep knowledge to really get into it. Yeah. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, they didn't get off into the long grass over.
Yeah, it's not the place for that.
No, I agree. Well, our car is sporting push rod technology this year instead of pull rod, and it's like
there's a place for that, and that wasn't this, and so I thought that was nice that they kind of just set that tone and kind of stuck with it. I'm sure some of the people hated having to sit there, but they even made cracks about that too. What could be more exciting than performing for all these people who are bored out of their mind and this,
Right. And it is tough to have the big livery launch. And Jack, to be honest with you, is right. Most of the cars hadn't changed a lot. And I think a couple of teams' designers seem to find that gradient button in Adobe Photoshop. So they have those gradient cars, which I've never been a big fan of. And that's why I like the RB.
Listen,
it was...
You're just hoping that the world car comes back. That's the one.
The world car, the Honda World Car. Yeah, I liked when Barf One did the 2 separate liveries, and the FI said, And then both cars. And then they put a zipper down the middle and put half the one cigarette brand on half of the side, and the other half of the side was in a totally different paint scheme. They just mashed the two together, and that was complete non sequitur.
I liked it for its cheekiness, but if somebody just showed me that, I'd be like, "Well, that's dumb." But knowing the backstory, I'm like, "Oh, I support your cheekiness.
I know.
This is great."
I know the backstory is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So agreed. And And I did like the table setting they did, kind of like you said up front, and kind of set the expectations. And you make a great point when you're doing the lighting and image mapping and the sort of long rectangular square that came down with the semi-translucent backdrop that the image mapped on, and even the lights. So they'd switch from look to look in the lighting scheme. But it wasn't overbearing or dominant. It really was video, very video forward, which it needed to be. So the image mapping was very tastefully done too. So I loved all of it.
I think it's kind of like when somebody's really has mastery of it, you look at it and you're like, well, I could do that.
Yeah,
That's what it felt like, right? Like it didn't stand out too much and in a way you didn't notice it and you shouldn't have. And I think that's what made it really good, is that it was just sort of like, oh yeah, I could have done this lighting. What are you talking about?
Right.
It was really seamless and was nice.
Yeah, it really was. And I agree with you also, as far as young and old, most of the musical acts, I'm a little lost on me because I'm not their target audience.
I figured I'm old and I'm not British. So then I'm like, I'm not one of these people.
Yeah. I had nothing against them. It's just, I wasn't familiar with their music. So,
which I think was good. That's fine.
It's fine. Totally fine. I'm fine with that. If they're
enjoyed it.
Really popular with younger generation, that's great. Go for it. Okay. So let's talk about what we didn't like.
Okay.
I mentioned that I liked the brevity, but I also did not like the brevity. It feels like maybe 2 fewer music acts would have given the teams more time to actually discuss the upcoming season, share a few more thoughts. They had all of the F1 TV hosts, they were cycling. There was Lawrence Barretto, hey, and Laura Winter and whoever else. And so everybody had their moment. I'm not sure that was really needed. And I don't know. It just, to me, Jack's there. He's hosting the whole thing. He's on point. He's got the narrative going. He's got the vibe of you never know who's going to go after next and all that. And to introduce the F1 TV people to interview is a complete jump scare, in my opinion. And, for Jack to Lawrence to Laura, it just disrupted the pacing and the vibe to me. I think Jack could have handled the whole thing. And I think nothing against music acts. Like I said, I'm fine with them. I just think if they had just 2 music acts, that would have given more time for each team to have a little bit more than just 7 minutes, right? The vignettes, the videos, I thought got a little weighted on the procession.
I wish they would have like you get 7 minutes, 2 can be video. Like I wish they would, because I think that it was odd in that way, that it was sort of like Red Bulls was like, okay, minute 10 and we're still in video, right?
Yeah.
And then them were really short.
And I don't know why. Maybe it was just because it was the first one. It seemed like Sauber's was like infinitely longer than everybody's,
Maybe that was it. But I did love the drum line. I mean, the snare drums. That was great. When they brought them out with the glow stick.
It was great. I love the drums. But I think maybe a little bit. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from the teams and the drivers, just to say, car looks great. Livery looks great. Excited for the new year. Then go to the team boss. Yeah, we're excited.
Good.
Like
look,
cars.
It's red.
Yeah, cars look great. We're excited for this year. We're all about passion. Okay.
Yeah. I think in some ways it's kind of like when they first introduced sprint races. Like, it'll never be this organic again, because now everybody's done it once, and so they'll sort of figure it out. It will never be as fun, right? Because you could see that the teams didn't know what each other were doing, and they were just sort of given 7 minutes and told, here's 3 bullet points of an outline, go do something, and they all kind of came back with something different. And we probably will never have it quite that organic anymore, because now they've kind of seen what each other does. Yeah,
right. I agree. Let's see. Another thing I didn't like the booing for Max, Christian, Lance Stroll, or the FIA, if I'm honest. Thought that it just felt misplaced for the event and the spirit of the event. When you're celebrating the start of a new season, you're celebrating all the teams' liveries, their new sponsors, the drivers, and you're there to celebrate F1, and then you're getting boos. Look, I get it. If You can boo if you're a fan, of course, not a big deal. It's just not something I would have done. I just, even if I didn't like a team or a driver, I wouldn't have booed them. I felt like the spirit of the event is to celebrate F1 and all the teams participating. And to me, it just seemed misplaced. And it was really awkward. It was awkward for...
It was awkward. I'll give you that. Right? And especially when they booed Christian Horner and he's just standing there, right?
Yeah, it's very awkward.
But I will always boo the Boston Celtics. I don't really care what the feel of the moment is. It could be the prize giving ceremony. If the Celtics are there, I am booing them. So I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about the booing, but it is kind of awkward when they're just standing there and everybody's booing them.
It's it's okay. So you're an ardent hater of Christian Horner. Okay. But then, so you don't think Lance really deserves a ride. Okay. But I don't know, booing him and it's really awkward. It's just awkward. Fair enough. You can boo, you can cheer or you can boo. Doesn't really matter. But it just, to me personally, it's very awkward. It puts kind of a pall in the evening that isn't really necessary when you're there to celebrate the evening. I mentioned Sauber's video. It's, to me, as I was watching it, it seemed to get more compressed the longer it went. And by the time you got to the big teams, it seemed more compressed. And that may be just a mental thing for me, because each team was given 7 minutes. So I'm really not sure why I felt that way about the pacing. It just seemed like that to me.
It could be that that's the first one. It would be interesting to go back and watch it now that you kind of know the whole thing.
True. Yeah, I didn't rewatch it. Maybe I should. I'm sure they all took their 7 minutes, I'm assuming, but who knows?
I don't know what happens if they took more than 7 minutes. That would have been fun to find out.
Yeah, they cut the mic off.
The lights go out.
Yeah.
Hand to Jack.
Yeah. I liked
awkward.
I liked Aston Martin's nod to 007. Thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, going back to the, old, young. Who doesn't love, James Bond? I thought that was great, a great theme, and, who doesn't? That's a winner.
Yeah,
always.
It was. As I mentioned, I liked Darby's livery. I liked Red Bull's organic sort of streetcar nod to the garagistas and people who love cars and work on them, and I thought that was well done.
It could have been 6 minutes shorter, though. I mean, to me, Red Bull's was very clear that Max Verstappen didn't want to do this. They made the video as long as possible, and then when he does walk out, he looks like he's at least in the third realm of hell.
Yeah.
He is not enjoying this at all, right? So
it's not his thing.
I liked it, but it was just okay, we got it. And especially because Red Bull has so much they could pull from. Yeah. As a sponsor, they do everything that's crazy. So
I did like Ferrari's nod to Enzo. You're like,
I mean, that was the big thing. I mean, it was a big thing, right? Lewis and Red. That was that's all they talked about, and so that was fun.
Yeah. Well,
this is Enzo Ferrari.
That's Enzo Ferrari.
That's right.
That was a good nod to Enzo. Let's see. What else? I thought the least inspiring video was Mercedes. Sorry, Toto.
Okay, so here's what I think. So I think that my favorite, and not because they're my team, I thought McLaren's nod to their heritage was great. And I love that they actually brought the old cars. It was here's Senna, and here's Mika Hakkinen, and then here's our new car. I love that it was just they brought the cars, right? It was great.
Yeah.
And so I really loved how they kind of brought that heritage forward, especially because that's something we think about with Ferrari, right? Like you were saying with Enzo Ferrari, and there's a lot of that in Ferrari. But McLaren has a lot of that rich history too that I don't know that everybody that that's into it now would know about all that, especially because McLaren doesn't really talk about the Ron Dennis era, right? And then all of that spanned Ron Dennis. So we kind of don't talk about him. So it was nice to see that McLaren is starting to come back to that and not just we start with Zach Brown and we don't talk about that part of us anymore. Right. And so bringing the cars I thought was great. And then you get to Mercedes. Mercedes does have a limited heritage in the modern time, across all of Formula One, but just currently, right? Yeah. And I think that if anybody could have used a Danny Rick, it was Mercedes. Without Lewis, they really seemed to boring, sober, boring, right? It was just like, there was no sort of like, they needed like Danny Ricciardo to like, yell Hulkenberg or something from, from the side or something like that. It was just, I agree that I think that they really had nothing, that they had no fun video. Like, at least Red Bull, they knew Max wasn't really going to be, and Liam weren't really going to be that exciting. So they really had a fun video.
Yeah, they did. It was a great video.
You could have like balanced this, or like the little comedic sketch that Racing Bulls did. That was kind of funny that they kind of mock all the things, like nobody remembers our name, our drivers are short.
They made fun of themselves. It was great.
Yeah. It was fun.
And they had fun
Mercedes.
with it. Mercedes was like, what, their marketing department just, did they all just kind of sit down and they were like, we don't have Lewis. What are we going to do?
I know, right?
We don't have Lewis. What are we going to do?
Instead, like maybe Lewis, we talk about like they take their engineers with them or something like that. Maybe he took the marketing department with him.
Maybe he did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was really you lost Lewis, I get it, but you have more of a heritage in the sport than just Lewis, and you leaned into none of it.
They were just like, I don't know what we would talk about. I don't know.
This is Kimmy.
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Cool. That's George.
I'm
Toto.
And I'm Toto. We're here to pump you up. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, that was the least inspiring to me. I'd say overall it was successful. And I think next year they may want to look at how they script the event. Maybe they, intertwining some narratives or some team immersions with other teams or within the videos or other ways to pace the event and present without, giving a bunch of room for fans to sit around, get drunk and boo people. I think maybe that would be a way to do it. And I'm not poking fun at them. I even in the opinion piece I did on our website about it, I said, just thankfully it wasn't an American event, because good heavens, we'd been so over the damn top on this event. It had been like a 4-hour evening extravaganza with the most nonsense crap and pomp and circumstance ever. So I love the efficiency of this.
Subtlety isn't our strength as a country.
No, it's not. We tend to overdo these things. You watch these videos, you think these people are like from the Marvel's comic universe. They're invincible.
Yes. I would be remiss if we moved past this topic without mentioning the fact that there were multiple Mike Crack jokes. And I was glad to see that I'm not the only one. Like, everybody's been so, buttoned up about me. Because, again, he doesn't go by Michael Crack. He goes by Mike Crack.
Mike Crack.
That's just waiting right there. So I love that not once, but like 2 or 3 times, Jack made Mike Crack jokes.
I know.
He was just like, really? There's a guy named Mike Crack in this sport? That was great.
I know.
I enjoyed that.
Even you and I were having to be reserved all season long, You want to make a Mike Crack joke, but,
and like, how do you, like, I don't know if I ever met him. Like, I'd just be like, giggling the whole time. Like,
you sound like Beavis. He said crack.
Your name's Crack. Never stop.
Yeah. Yes. That's true.
Good old Mike Crack. So
it's nice to know that Jack liked the Mike Crack.
Yeah. Clearly, whoever his writers were, or if he was his own writer, the Mike Crack jokes made it in there. And and Alonso versus Age being his, the biggest championship or the biggest battle this season.
Right. Sure. Yeah, Alonso's Age. Yeah. Anyway, good event. Let's see. Excuse me. Oh, I mentioned booing, Grace.
Yes.
And while you thought it was awesome, the FIA didn't think it was awesome.
Of course not.
They've weighed in on the fans booing.
Oh, of course they did.
Yeah, they had the car livery launch. Fans were booing. And would you like to hear what the FIA had to say?
I would love to hear what the
FIA had to say. You asked for miracles. I give you the FIA. Quote, great rivalries throughout the history of motorsport have contributed to making it such an exciting experience for fans. But what underpins sport at all levels is a culture of respect. As such, it was disappointing to hear the crowd's tribalist reaction to the FIA Formula One World Champion Max Verstappen and his Red Bull team principal and CEO Christian Horner at the F1 launch in London. Now, oddly, they left themselves out of this because the fans booed the FIA too, and Lance Stroll. Quote, Max and Christian have both contributed greatly to the sport we love. In the season ahead, we should not lose sight of that. As part of the FIA's commitment to protect the integrity of the sport, we are leading a coalition tackling online abuse in sport under the banner of our United Against Online Abuse campaign. We stand with all our competitors, officials, volunteers, and fans to unite against this growing threat. We urge the sporting community to consider the impact of their actions both online and offline, end quote.
Okay.
There you go.
Seems like a little, I mean, I don't know that booing is the same as bullying.
Doxing people.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times, right? Like, to me, I get it. There's a difference between, like, boo, I don't like you. Boo, you know, you're the Celtics. Boo. Or, like, I'm going to harm your family member. Like, there's a clear, you can't throw things at people. You can't threaten people. Like, to me, there's a clear line. But trash talk is part of the fun. Like, part of the fun is that you're a Ferrari fan and I'm a McLaren fan and we trash talk each other and these, like, sly little snipes all over. It's fine. We're friends, right? I'm not like, oh, you're a, blah, you know. If you don't have a little trash talk, I don't know, where's the fun in all this? If it's all just like, I love every team the same. I just hope they have fun. Like, that's not how sports works, right? And so I understand the idea of, like, especially when alcohol is involved, that things get out of hand. But I don't fundamentally understand how then, if I can't boo, I mean, I'm not a Red Bull fan. I think day 2 of Red Bull's inception, I was not a Red Bull fan. This has been a long-standing thing. I'm not a, like, bandwagon Red Bull hater. I would boo them. So what am I supposed to do to show displeasure at this team that I do not care for if I can't boo them? And that I don't think booing is the same as, like, online bullying which we do need to do something about. But I'm not sure how this seems like we took this thing and made it into this mountain. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to me it's a pretty wordy statement to get to the point that they were kind of ticked off of the booing. I get it. Because I said the same thing. I felt the evening was meant to celebrate the teams, the liveries, the drivers, and the start of the 2025 season. That's the spirit was intended. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that you had a bunch of boos and disdain. I just think it was misplaced, but that's just me. It's my opinion. And I think the FI would have said, would have been fine just saying, look, we celebrate all the teams that participate in Formula One, and
they do.
Each individual driver, team personnel, and the sacrifice they make and the contribution to the series that they make. And we celebrate them all. And this event was intended to do just that, to celebrate all the teams, whether you're your favorite driver, favorite team or not. We're here to celebrate the ecosystem of F1, not turn it into a big boo session for people or teams you don't like. And you really could have left it at that. But
even though everybody tries to make every competition into Senna Prost, right? Yeah. But they're supposed to ignore that when that works in their favor, okay, Lewis and George, not Senna Prost. Like, everything is like, well, this is the next Senna Prost, right? It's like everybody's the next Michael Schumacher, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I get it. Like, okay. But when it's convenient, they like that narrative very much of the competition.
Yeah, they do. They do. And, let's be honest, it's in the UK, and most of the fans are still really wrapped around the axle of Lewis Hamilton, right? Yeah. Even though you got Lando, George, Ollie Behrman, you got these other fantastic British drivers out there, but they're still huge fans of Lewis. And so, of course, they're going to do that, which is funny because most of those Lewis fans have spent their life spitting on Ferrari. But at that event, you'd have thought they were all long lifetime tifosi,
welcome, friends of the team that you didn't like that now your driver's at.
Yep.
That's my entire career in this sport.
It is. It is.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So they're lifelong Ferrari. Now they're huge Ferrari fans.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
It's the only way my team has any championships. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The other thing I was thinking about, I want to be fair about it too. I was thinking about the Red Bull thing in particular, Grace, and I was thinking about, they're going to have some booze for Max. Okay, they're still, been out of shape over 2021. Most of them are Lewis fans. You're going to get that. The thing with Christian was a little different.
I agree.
I could almost understand Max. I'm not quite sure I understand the Christian, because that was a lot more booing than what Max got. It was personal. Yeah,
that was personal at Christian Horner.
Yeah, it really was.
Because you had watched it before I did, and on the group text, you're like, wow, they're really booing Christian Horner. And then I watched it, I was like, whoa, you weren't kidding.
Yeah.
They were really booing Christian Horner.
Yeah, they really were. And I was just kind of like, this is personal, and really caught him off guard. It was very awkward and uncomfortable for him. I feel bad for him in that sense. But I got to thinking about, look, that's a different reason for booing than booing Max because you don't like what he did to your driver or whatever. But booing Christian's a different deal. I mean, that would be like, Fred Vasseur getting up there and everybody booing Fred because, he's like, what? Fred? What are you booing Fred for? He's a team boss. What did he do,
He's a gift.
And it's this whole thing with Toto Wolff, and Lewis is there, and Toto, I think in the British press, came out as being, a lot of times the victim, and Christian painted as the aggressor. And I'm not saying there weren't times he was. Change your effing car. And I get it. But Christian's British. Right. So, and I got to think about the Red Bull thing in general. And look, there's some mea culpa in my mind, and I'm just spitballing here. Okay. But I kind of feel like, last year was a bit of an odd season with everything that was going on. And it was really odd how it was unveiled. It was really odd how it was handled. And then it was really odd how it was put to bed. Right. And then you've got departures of key personnel. You got Max's dad, like a whirling dervish in the back of the garage, hurling all kinds of haterade. And it was just really weird. And it got me thinking that Red Bull has some ownership in this brand damage that they're experiencing as well. All the happenings last year were muted, quickly dismissed. Jos Verstappen isn't helping matters, and the departure of key personnel, as I mentioned, that's difficult too. Red Bull needs to own their bad news, and getting out in front of the messaging on this issue would be paramount last year. And I was a little surprised that they sort of tried to, but they didn't. And I kind of feel like crisis PR rules would have really come in handy back then, right?
Right.
And look, if none of the stuff with Horner and everything is true, then they should have absolutely got out ahead of it and unequivocally set the messaging around this specious allegations and put it to bed, right? If it was true, bless you.
Sorry.
That's exactly how I felt about the whole damn thing. If it was true, conversely, then I'd argue that, maybe Christian might have considered moving to the team CEO role and promoting Jonathan Wheatley to team boss, remove the controversy, let Horner work on the P&L and balance sheet and resource allocation, sponsor development, all that, and let Jonathan manage the race team, the pit wall, remove the controversy, and move forward.
Do something.
Yeah. If all of that was true, it's a pretty difficult position to stand and be the captain of if all of that's true, Yeah. And maybe that's what the British fans are, booing about. Who knows? Sorry for the dogs barking. That's going to be the soundtrack for a while for this podcast.
I just assumed they were also blessing me for sneezing on the air.
No, they're booing Christian Horner.
Oh, see, there you go.
That's what it is.
I mean, I guess the thing is, so this came up in MotoGP the end of last season because they were in Italy and the fans were booing Marc Marquez, who's Spanish, who's Spaniard, right? And Pecco Bagnaia, who's Italian, came out and said, don't do that. We're here. We put our lives on the line to entertain you in this sport. Don't boo Marc Marquez. As someone who would boo Marc Marquez, I'm like, so what do you want me to do? I guess that's the sort of like, I get there's a line, and maybe it is in that environment, it is crossing a line, right? Those boos were more than just boos, like we were talking about with Christian Horner, but I think there's some part of it that I don't understand then if I can't boo, what am I supposed to do? And I say that as somebody who has, gone to Caps games wearing Pens jerseys because they're playing each other and people are usually intoxicated and not very polite. And it's like, I get it. We're rivals. Ha ha ha. That's fine. But like, I'm going to leave now. I feel uncomfortable and unsafe. Nobody should feel that, right? Because of their fandom. So I don't know where this goes, because again, it's either like fans have the ability to just boo, or we all just have to like everybody, and I don't know how that's really tenable either. No, I agree with you. It's fair enough. When you're a fan and you're at the track and the race is happening, and you're booing. The emotions are high. Everybody's excited. I get that. This wasn't that kind of event, but I get it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but it turned into this kind of event. It's something they'll have to anticipate next year, Well, I mean, so we were now again, this story is now like 10 years old, because when John Wall was still with the Wizards, and they would do, like in between, quarters or whatever, they would show like sing-alongs or whatever, and they did one where they asked fun facts about the different players. Well, John Wall is a Dallas Cowboys fan. Well, Washington football team fans do not like Dallas. And so when he does his video clip and they ask him who his favorite football team is, he goes, Dallas Cowboys. I know. Boo. Right? Because he knows that everybody in that arena has now booed him. They love John Wall. They hate the Cowboys. And those two things should never pass. So, I thought Steelers fans hated the Cowboys. I think everybody hates the Cowboys. But I think the Steelers fans really hate Ohio. Right? That's our rivalry, is all of Ohio. Yeah. Yes, all you steel belt. Yeah, right? Yeah. Gotcha. They're the Midwest. We don't like them. But I think that, I don't know, right? Like there has to be some, I don't know. To me, that's some part of the fun. And, it can be. Maybe that's not the event, but I think that's expected. I don't know why. Who was not expecting? Maybe not that much. Yeah, I think you're going to get it from driver to driver and from Max. Somebody said that I saw on social media. So I don't quite understand why everybody dislikes Max, because he's the one driver currently on the grid who's the most like Kimi Räikkönen, and everybody loved Kimi, they're kind of, I mean, only in the sort of like deadpan. Yeah. I don't know that Kimi and Max are the same, but I mean, he's the winning, like he has 4 world championships. People are just going to boo him because he's winning, right? Like happens. Michael Schumacher, they're just going to boo him because he's winning, right? Then they did. He's the Patriots, right? People are just going to boo, right? So I think that, you take some of that, people booed Lewis, right? Like some part of that you have to then like turn that narrative around or something. But of course they were going to boo Max. Yeah. That was a given. I think they just got to anticipate and just roll with it. It is what it is. Speaking of booing in the FIA, there's more FIA news, Grace. You thought we were done with MBS, but no, he's there. He's hovering over this podcast like we're weighing in after a race. It is a good thing he did not show up. Oh, because he for sure would have got booed. Oh, he for sure would have got booed. Yep. Yeah, he would have. No, this is go ahead. And then they would have panned to the tables, and you would have seen like Lewis and Charles Leclerc like, boo! Oh, the camera's on us. Never mind. Yeah. No, we're not booing. Yeah. Charles would have been given in the middles, Yeah, no boos from us. Yeah, right. Or George, sorry, would have been given the middles. Yes, he would have been giving him the full willpower. Yeah, he would have. Yeah. No, the FIA has spoken up from the dulcet tones of MBS himself on social media, and he posted on social media that he favors a return to the screaming V10s of yesteryear. I bet he does. And this is what he said. He said, quote, "This week's F1 launch in London has triggered a lot of positive discussion on the future of the sport.
While we look forward to the introduction of the 2026 regulations on chassis and power unit, we must also lead the way on future technological motorsport trends. We should consider a range of directions, including the roaring sound of the V10 running on sustainable fuel. Whichever direction is chosen, we must support the teams and manufacturers in ensuring cost control on R&D expenditure. End quote. So,
okay.
It's been an interesting response to this. I've read some opinion pieces on it. It's been met with varying opinions. Let me just say that. But I guess my question, these are more questions than statements, is what is the next logical step for F1? There were some opinion pieces. Oh, this is ridiculous, and this is like Boris Johnson, Operation Red Meat. I think somebody had said that at Autosport in an opinion piece. Fair enough, but the implication is they're still going backwards, and this is against going 180 against sustainability and all this kind of stuff. And I was thinking, well, okay, it's all right. Let's just say all criticism is true. Then what is the logical next step for F1? Fully electric? Because I don't see that as a reality anytime soon, if ever, in Formula One.
Isn't there already somebody that does that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it is what fans want is fully electric, well, the FIA gladly offers you Formula E, right? So right. Why would you not watch that, yet demand F1 be fully electric when you've got a fully electric open wheel series you can watch and enjoy, right?
Yeah.
So that's an odd argument to me. So, oh, no, everyone should be, because go watch Formula E if you want all electric. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Right?
And it exists, right?
Yeah. I suspect, this is just my personal opinion, but I suspect, given Stefano Domenicali's comments and MBS, et cetera, that sustainable fuels is where F1 will go, sense. Given their proclamations in the last couple of years. And if so, then what would it matter if you're using a V6, V8, or V10s, right? It wouldn't matter if you're using sustainable fuel. Now, this goes back to a conversation that I was having with Steve Matchett several years ago, right before the hybrid era came out. And we were talking about it, and neither of us were a fan of it at the time. And Steve was saying, the unfortunate thing is if they're worried about fuel consumption, they can control and restrict the fuel flow. It's easy to do.
Right. Sure.
And this becomes a huge engineering challenge for the teams. How to produce that much RPM and that much horsepower on restricted fuel flow, right? It becomes a massive engineering challenge in how they do that. Right. And if you combine that with sustainable fuel itself, it could have immediate road car impact, right?
Right.
Other arguments might center on the resources needed to create sustainable fuels. And I do think that processing alone is what has slowed the pace of the introduction of the sustainable fuels to F1.
Makes sense.
But even if production was on par for the demand in F1, maybe some of the concerns are what resources are needed to produce the fuel itself, right? That's a challenging argument. You could flip that and say, well, the resources needed to create electric cars themselves takes a tremendous amount of resources, and to be, to either be created or the materials themselves, they're not the most sustainable. So the same might be said about power methods or whatever when you go down in that world. So these same questions come up irrespective of the application or industry, right? This is where doing something and working towards solutions that make sense, and perhaps a synthetic, sustainable fuel, is F1's charter, in my opinion. What else would we expect or demand from F1? Could we demand it of NASCAR, IndyCar, MotoGP, Rally, BTC? I mean, what are we demanding? At what level does F1 owe what, right? For me, if F1 could help perfect synthetic fuels that could be used in today's road cars, lessening the demand on petroleum-based fuels, that's a huge win for the billions of internal combustion engine cars that are on the road, right?
Right.
And I feel like F1 could be the rapid prototyping, the crucible of development for that.
Yeah, I think it really depends, though, on what the manufacturers want.
Right. Is that a direction they want to go? You're absolutely right, Grace.
Right? Because that's the reason we do all these silly hybrid stuff, right? Like, it's nobody's like, you know what would be really great? Hybrid engines in Formula One. Nobody says that.
No.
It's that's what the manufacturers want,
Right.
and so they see that as a way to perfect that engine and get the shine off of Formula One on their hybrids, right?
Yep.
So, I get it. I think from an engineering perspective, I think it would be really interesting to be synthetics, but I'm not sure how much manufacturers are into that. And that's ultimately who drives that.
Yeah, it is. And I suspect if manufacturers' participation was based upon F1 moving towards electric, then either that manufacturer bows out because F1 isn't heading in that direction, or they don't. It's a big conversation for F1 to have with the participating manufacturers.
Or you're Mercedes and you go to Formula E and you can't make any money, so you come back.
To Formula One.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, me personally, when I read this statement, I just thought this was a cheap way to get fans on your side after you got booed.
Yeah, right.
It's very much a like, let them eat cake. Give them V10s, right?
Yeah.
Like, that solves everything.
Yeah.
You get a V10, you get a V10. You're unhappy with me, get a V10, right? Like, that's like some sort of like answer to everything in this sport.
Right.
Like, that didn't solve my problem. But you're right, I do want a V10.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I mean, the knock on for me also is the teams could save a lot of money in developing less expensive engines than the current hybrid monstrosity they are, right?
Sure.
They're currently saddled with those. Those were a fortune. The last iteration, by the way, when we talk about efficiency of the current hybrid, which is fantastic by all measure, the current power unit is incredibly efficient. There's no doubt about that. But just for balance here, the last iteration of the internal combustion engine V8, that engine was far more efficient than the 4-cylinder in a Prius. So it's not a question about the march towards a more efficient ICE engine in F1, because those engines were fiercely efficient, and they were more efficient than a Prius engine, but they were delivering 850, 900 horsepower, right?
You know what? Manufacturers care about this thing called optics.
Yeah.
Not this thing that you're putting out, which is facts.
Right. Yeah, the optics, nobody, whatever.
Prius has to be more efficient.
Yeah, right.
Optics.
Right. So I feel like if you had a high efficient V8, V10, running on sustainable fuels, I think it's a win-win for F1. I do.
Right, there you go.
There you have it.
Well, Stefano Domenicali, we know you listen, so
I know Stefano listens.
We'll just give that to you for free.
That's
you don't even
right.
have to be supporting us on. Although, if you ever did and you wanted to join the chat, that would be great.
It would be great. I agree.
And you can at least clarify if it's Stefano or Stefano, which I'm still not really sure, Mr.
Right.
Domenicali, which you prefer.
Hey, Patreon supporter Dave, who's live with us here, he agrees. He says sustainable fuel V10 for the win. And I agree, Dave. I totally agree with you. I'm there.
Idea.
I think V10's the sound of a V10 running on normally aspirated, running on sustainable or synthetic fuel would be awesome. So, well, do you like props? Can I grab this?
I do. I love a good prop.
Okay. All right, let me grab this here. I have a prop. I have to dust.
This is not in the notes. This is
it's not in the notes.
Surprise prop. This is great.
Does this send a message if I got to say that I just had to dust it off of my jeans and there's a ton of dust that came off on my jeans? Now I got to wash my jeans. That's how much dust was on it.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, if you're not watching this podcast, you may have to go watch the YouTube version of this podcast for the video.
This should be our thumbnail. What are you talking about?
This should be my thumbnail. It should for the podcast, Grace. You and I, we can just put that on there.
Gosh.
So I'm showing a picture, a very extreme close-up of Gunther Steiner.
Very angry Gunther Steiner. But.
Drive to Sue. No, I mean Drive to Survive. Sorry.
Surviving to Drive. Yes.
Gunther Steiner, who Grace and I several years ago agreed that he has achieved single name fame, like Madonna, Prince, Steiner. Cher. Steiner. Right. Babs. Barbara.
Yeah.
Steiner. So Steiner drops the case against Haas. Good. Now you're going to love this one, Grace. I promise you're going to get a kick out of this. So Gunther Steiner has dropped his lawsuit against the Haas Formula One outfit after coming to an agreement during mediation proceedings.
Oh.
Gunther sued Haas in April of last year, claiming he was owed money after his contract with the team was not renewed. Now get this. The case claimed... Yeah, go ahead, what?
No, I was going to say, but that wasn't illegal. It wasn't like they just didn't renew it, right?
Yeah, but he said he was still owed money. The case claimed Haas had built its success and fan base largely on the back of Steiner, stating that, quote, the popularity of Formula One in America is rapidly growing, and Haas F1 has grown with it. But neither Haas F1 nor Formula One would exist in the modern United States if not for Gunther Steiner. End quote.
Wow.
Whoa. What?
Okay, so first of all, I wish I had the chutzpah to say that about this podcast would be nothing if it wasn't for me being on it. Like to have that kind of bravado. Wow, that's how many times would I have to practice that in the mirror to be able to say that with a straight face in a court of law? That the only reason why there are American fans is because of me.
That's
okay.
I read that. He said what? I had to read that 3 times.
I think Ricciardo is owed some money.
Yes.
If Gunther Steiner is owed some money.
I think Lewis Hamilton's owed some money.
Yeah. There's a lot of people here that...
yeah.
I don't think you can just claim that on your own Steiner.
For real. I mean, really? We've been covering F1 for 18 years now. 18 years I've been carrying water for Formula One, and even got threatened by Formula One because our past name. I've been doing it for 18 years unpaid. And that was long before Gunther ever showed up on the scene, and long before Haas ever showed up on the scene. Paul and I told Gene how to do it, and he ignored us. I mean, that was long, and F1 was very much alive and well in the U.S. Was it as big as it is now? Of course not. But that's down to Sean Bratches and Netflix and Drive Survive. It's not just Gunther's performance by F-bombing everybody in Drive Survive. That isn't what made it grow in America. I'd say it was had to do with COVID-19, lockdown, the series writing, the scripting, and F1 itself. Gunther was a fun character in a much, much larger show. I mean, he's like Ned Beatty in Deliverance, or Baby Groot in The Guardians, or Cal Naughton Jr. in Talladega Nights, or maybe even more like Olaf in Frozen.
Why you got to play Olaf like that? Why is he catching Steiner's strays? What did he do to you, man? He's just a snowman. I
don't know. I think Olaf should run Haas F1.
It would be fun. I think it'd be fun. He could work for Gadzoo. It would be great.
Yeah.
I just think this is such because not only is he saying, which would be fine, if Gunther Steiner was like, dear, Gene Haas, you owe me money. Fine. You owe him money. But to say you owe me money because you're only successful because of me, and not only are you only successful, you're only successful in the United States because of me. Like, I just think that's, I don't know, maybe we should all just be, all the more we should be supporting Komatsu, right?
I think so.
No, that's right. That's why you're our favorite now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I knew there was something off. The year before Haas came to F1, I was at CODA at the F1 race, and I was in the media, and I was in the paddock, and I was walking by, and there was Gunther, and they had just announced that they were coming to F1, and he was standing there, and I said, "Hey, Gunther, congratulations on F1." He just looked at me. He looked at me exactly like the cover of his book. That's exactly how he looked at me.
Did he also grumble, "It's tomorrow"?
No, that was Christian. But Gunther just looked at me. He didn't say a word. I was like, okay, just polite, conversation,
Sorry.
whatever, no big deal.
I didn't boo you, my man.
Yeah, I didn't boo you, And I should have told him at the time, Gunther, you wouldn't even be in this paddock if it wasn't for me.
This guy.
That's right.
Here.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I thought that was weird. All right, Grace. Now we're going to get into your wheelhouse. We're going to get into your day job here. All right. Once again, F1 and Motorsport Network have launched a global survey.
Why?
I don't know. And once again, like an idiot, I completed it.
Oh,
I have no idea why I did it. I've done so many damn times over the years that they do these, and they always make a big, as a global survey. We're definitely listen to the fans, and we want to know, we're going to do a big survey, and we're going to find out what you really think. They've done this, I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
And I filled it out. Here, and I said this the last time they did it, right?
Yeah. Right.
Here is a major lesson for any company who takes a survey of its employees or its customers. Yeah. Never, ever take a survey if you do not plan on doing anything with them. Yeah. And that isn't just like a little thing. If fans don't see some of the larger rocks that they've identified as a majority of fans responded, if they don't see those big rocks that 83% said was a huge issue, if that isn't addressed, you're in trouble. And you keep doing that, you're going to lose, the brand will lose the customer's trust or / employee, depending on who you're doing it. And I know that sounds odd, but that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I've invited our co-host, Grace, to discuss survey methodology, because that's exactly what Grace does for a living.
I think the thing is that you picked the questions. So if you weren't, okay, so for example, let's say the FIA wants to put out a survey. Maybe they don't put out, like, what do you think about the tires? Because they know that's negative, right? You don't need a survey to tell you that. So don't ask that question. You already know the answer, and you're not going to do anything about it because you haven't. So don't ask me. You're just creating frustration, right?
Right.
You're just going to ask me a question. It's going to make me mad because I told you again, and you ignored me again.
Right.
So why bother, right? So you control the questions. The other thing is right, like you were saying, you actually write survey questions backwards. You start with your analysis. How are you going to use these responses? And then you write your question. So what do you want to know is where you start. What are your goals? What are your analytic goals? Not writing some questions, but it's not how marketing surveys usually work, which I assume this is. So, I think that's always the case. Like, they usually are just telling you something you already knew, which is fine if that's how you want to get the pulse of the fans. But if you're going to get the pulse of the fans and then, like you said, not do anything about it, if you're like, would you prefer Todd wear a hat or not a hat on the podcast? And Todd has no intention of ever not wearing a hat on a podcast. Don't ask the question. He's wearing a hat, right? Like, you're just going to make people mad. Yeah,
it is interesting. And there was like questions, fashion is a big deal, with Formula One. And, you care about fashion. It's like, okay, so it's a marketing survey. Where are we going with this? Is this, and at some point you also, I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying, you can also run the risk of abusing your customers.
Oh, always.
If you constantly are going to them under the guise of an F1 global survey. The way that they pitched this in the press release and stuff, it was a very important global survey. I answered the survey questions. They weren't about what you would have thought F1 truly wanted to know about the sport itself. Like, what do you think of sprint races? Are they too long? How, meaningful structural Formula One changes. They were almost secondary or tertiary to the actual racing, right? So it's clearly a marketing survey.
Yeah.
But you positioned it as a very important Formula One global survey.
Of course it is.
You're abusing your customers, and sooner or later, I think people will get on and they're going to, I'm not answering it. They were asking me if I care about fashion, whatever, and you're not going to get the response that you want in the future if you continue to do this. It's just my 2 cents. I'm just telling you.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that you have to have a very clear goal. I think anytime somebody said to me like, hey, I'd like to do a survey for my job, whatever reason, I'm like, what other ways could you get this information?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like as a survey person, I'm always trying to talk people out of doing surveys because I think people jump to that as a way to get information, but it is not the only way you can get information, and you should only use it carefully because, like you said, your fans only have so much goodwill. And so I have to think about the fact of like, let's say I can ask you 10 questions. I've got to pick wisely. And maybe I don't ask all 10 of them now. Maybe I ask you 2 now, I ask you 2 later, because the year is going to progress and other things that are going to be important to me, right? Don't waste it all that goodwill right up in the beginning.
I agree. And I'd like to think that I'm sure that Formula One's done this. But I think you make a very valid point on how you can get that information elsewhere, right? And for me, I would say, maybe it's a good exercise if you haven't done them recently, which maybe they have, but to go back and get your ICPs or your idea customer profile, ICPs, or customer personas. And what might be good is to go back and do some deep research on your ICP, figure out who your idea customer persona is, and then research those groups around what makes them tick and what resonates with them as an ICP or as part of your ICP profile, and to really divine what stories they resonate with, right?
Yes.
Marketing is all about storytelling, and so you have to figure out with your ICPs. This is where then it gets into the way that Formula One is sold to the public, and it gets into a mission of really maximizing opportunities of existing customers, which would be in the sales world, we call that farmers. And then there's hunters, right? And in farming, you're really trying to maximize the sale in an existing customer base, right? So I want Grace, who's an existing customer in Formula One, who goes to some races. I want to maximize Grace's wallet share or her spend with Formula One.
Wallet share.
And a way that we can do that is through this, or this, because Grace fits this particular ICP or the customer profile. On your hunters, it's about optimizing the sales opportunity. How can I get Grace's friend who doesn't know anything about Formula One, doesn't watch it?
I don't have any.
But the only thing but her friend does know Grace does something with Formula Podcast. So how can we optimize, or NASCAR or some racing? How can we optimize to get her into Formula One, knowing that she's close to a person who is heavily into Formula One? And how do we do that as a networking? Those are all hunting skill sets. And so I think you can get a lot of this information through marketing without constantly throwing out the boat anchor of a very important F1 global survey.
Because the thing is that the survey is just optics. That's the word of the night, right? They're just optics, right? It makes people feel like they're being heard. But I think you'd also want to look at who is answering your survey and how you're distributing your survey, right? I don't know. Is it only through motorsport that people found out about the survey? Is it on F1's website? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you put a poll up on our website, you're only polling people who go to our website. You cannot then make a statement like, all of the people who watch Formula One think that the Parc Fermé is the best podcast. Well, of course, if you only pull people off our website, I hope that's what they think.
Right.
So I think that's the other thing, too, that would be interesting is that, like, how else are you pulling in people? Because that's certainly not everybody that you would be interested in if you were really doing a survey to form your opinion about how best to move into the world.
Agreed. All right. We're going to do some Albin's Cats right now. Yes. Prophecy, Grace. What do you got for us?
All right. So earlier, right, we were talking about the Livery launch.
Yes.
And I enjoyed the sort of like roast style, little tongue-in-cheekness that we got with the with Jack as the host. But I did want to note that I feel like there was one joke that was completely missed that if I was the writers, I would have put out there. So I had never heard of the artist Kane Brown, the country singer guy.
I didn't either. And, it was like country rap, sort of like. Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever the kids are into these days. I had never heard of him. And, but, you know, not really a genre I hang out with. Anyway, so he sings this very catchy song, which I won't sing because for sure we don't have the rights to it. But if you listen to the chorus, it is very clear that he is trying to create some lame innuendo about having sex in the back of his truck that he just bought. Right? Like that's the whole point of the chorus is, hey, my significant other, I bought this truck. It's really big back there. Let's go put some miles on it. But the last line of the chorus is, if you know what I mean. Right? So he sings this whole like catchy thing, but at the end, it's kind of this like, hey, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
No, wink, wink.
You referred to the back of your truck as a California king-size bed, right? I got it. I know what I mean. So the whole time I'm like, oh God, just say what you mean. This is dumb. But anyway, but catchy song. So what I thought would have been funny is if Jack, after the song was over, was just like kind of humming the song like, boy, that was really catchy. And then like turned to somebody like Flavio Briatore and went, boy, Mr. Briatore, wasn't that song really catchy? But you know, I don't think I know what he means. Do you know what he means? Could you tell me what that means? Hilarious.
I don't think we want Flavio telling us.
I do. That's why I think it would be funny.
That might get X-rated pretty quick.
I didn't say give him the mic. I'm just saying I think that would have been funny. Like, what, do you know what he means? I don't think I know what he means.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could have done like Lando Norris or somebody. Anybody really would have been funny. But I think Flavio is somebody who dates models, you know, and has quite the like, has children with Heidi Klum. Like he kind of has a history of that. That's why it would be funny, right? Like, but yeah, I don't know. Do you know what he means? Play that up.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
I like it.
And I also think that, although we did not mention them at the top of the show, I think Williams is if Christian Horner is the person they booed, I think James Vowles is the people that everybody loves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
You can't get enough James Vowles. And so I think that next year, if they still get just do 7 minutes of James Vowles. You know, but I think that's a team that cannot, from the like unboxed videos, cannot lose. Because how do you make Alex Albon better? You add in some Carlos Sainz, and those two together are going to be great. Their unboxed videos are already great. The season hasn't even started. And then James Vowles, hilarious.
Yeah.
But in that very flat, monotone kind of way.
Very James way.
Great.
Yeah, I agree.
I love it. So,
well, it just shows
Williams.
you fans love Williams. You know, they do. Well, I mean, there's a good reason. So most world championships ever scored in the history of Formula One, Ferrari.
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah.
That's why. Third? McLaren. Right. So that's why, you know, those were the halcyon days back when Frank was there leading everything. All right. I got a couple no shit headlines.
All right.
This one's good. This headline. This is the actual headline. You ready?
I'm ready.
Inside the life of the F1 flop with links to Vladimir Putin that placed him on the EU sanctions list. Nikita Mazepin lasted just 21 races, but plans to compete in 5 different sports this year due to his hybrid athlete plan. That's a headline.
Wow. That's a lot.
What?
Is Ron Dennis writing headlines? That's really long, right? That's not like 5 words. That's a lot of. Wow. So what are the like skeleton? What are the sports that he's?
I don't know. They lost me after like F1 flop. I was like,
I don't know what.
That's quite a headline.
I mean, as soon as they mentioned the ties to Russia, we knew who they were talking about. But it was just like I am interested in what his like hybrid athlete plan is. Yeah, me too. Especially like if we're going to go back to, you know, normally aspirated, you know. I don't know.
Maybe he's running on sustainable fuel. I don't know.
be great at the Olympics.
Wasn't he the one groping a woman in the back seat just before the season started? Yeah, that wasn't good.
No,
that was not a good look.
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he should. I don't know.
Never
I don't
good.
know. We should never mention him again.
Okay, let's not. And finally, the last no shit headline I have: moment diehard Lewis Hamilton fan chops down tree to get better view of Ferrari star. Did you see that video?
I did. That's pretty great.
I watched that video and I thought,
good job, George.
That's a pretty decent sized tree. It wasn't like a sapling that just was annoying. It was a pretty decent sized tree, and he
came prepared.
Cut the top off, and I thought, okay, I don't know. Surely that's not going to go down well with Ferrari when you're cutting down trees. It's not good.
Yeah. Although, did you see the picture of Lewis like taking a spy photo of Charles Leclerc's when he was going around the track?
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it was.
I love that.
It was.
I love that.
It was good. It's good stuff.
I'm gonna enjoy that shine while we can.
Yes, exactly. You gotta bask in the glory that is Lewis and Ferrari marriage. And
that's right.
Well,
I mean, those
last
three though
forever.
together. No, but I do love some Fred and Lewis and Leclerc. They're fun.
They're a hoot.
Those kids are going to be great in some unbox videos as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if we get ready to do like a season preview podcast, who we think the most dangerous driver duo are.
Oh, that's got to be up there, though.
It's got to be up there. It does. Got to be up there. It's going to be... Yes, it's going to be tight.
I hope for everybody's sake it's up there.
Going to be tight. So anyway, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast. If you like this podcast, you can tell us what you think about these stories and more. Just go to theparkforme.com. P-A-R-C. Actually, it's the T-H-E. P-A-R-C, like Grace's shirt, F-E-R-M-E.com.
Right.
The Park for Me.
Park for Me.
And you can do that there. If you like the podcast, give us a good rating. Give us some love over at your favorite podcast player. If you're watching this, it's a little odd. I'm a little surprised more people haven't gone and hit the like and follow and bell icon on our YouTube channel.
I only have so many family members.
Yeah, people asked us for years, like, when are you going to do them on YouTube? Do them on YouTube. And you and I would say in the podcast, do people really want to see that? Oh yeah, we want to see that. Yeah, we want to.
Here we are.
And then I thought, does anybody want to watch Talking Heads? Heck yes, we want to watch them. And I put them on there, and I don't know, it's weird. So if you haven't done so, go over and hit the like and the subscribe and the bell and all the other stuff. That would help us out. I'd appreciate that. But anyway, we will be back next week to do it all over again. Huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We would not do this podcast without you. There's new merchandise, new logo up at the website too. You can get that just like I got, to Paul's chagrin, my new pop socket with the new logo. There it is. That's on the YouTube channel. There you go. And anyway, we will be back next week to do it all over again. Until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long, Grace.
MotoGP starts this weekend. Start watching, people.
I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.